Good to go.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and it is right now 6:30. So welcome on this Tuesday evening. So at this time, I'd like to have approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections anyone sees? Okay, the only thing I see is number one, to call the meeting to order. It was myself last meeting. So JR, if you could just make that correction, okay? Corrections anyone sees? Okay, the only thing I see is number one, to call the meeting to order. It was myself. Is that coming across delayed?
Yeah, sorry about that. We had, with switching to live stream, it was having the backup.
Okay. Okay, so now any other corrections to the minutes? Okay, then could I have a motion to approve?
I so move to approve the minutes.
A second?
Second.
You need to take a roll call vote?
Yeah, I'll do a roll call vote. Chair Carter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Crosby,
Yes.
Member Fisher,
Yes.
Member Jackman.
Yes.
Oh, Carolyn's joining right now, so we'll get this a 5-0 if we just wait a second.
Okay. Hi, Carolyn.
Hey.
Hi, Carolyn. We just got a motion and a second for the minutes, and we're a 4-0 vote so far, and you will make it 5-0 if you're willing to vote yay on it.
Sounds good, man. You guys are moving right along. I'm in. That's good.
Okay, so thank you. Okay, at this time, let's move on to the SRO report.
Well, so I as you guys know, I just got back to the back to school. We were having a little trouble on patrol, so we're finally as much as we can, and I was able to come back, getting all the schools ready to open up, with elementary school starting on the 5th, and then our middle school and high school starting on the 12th. Just kind of helping out the schools, making sure everyone's ready, even though this is going to be completely new, but making sure everyone's ready for the opening. So there's one thing that Lieutenant Gonzalez gave to me to relay. I think there was a question regarding the tobacco sale. There was the tobacco shop on D and 3rd. We actually had the planning department go out and do inspection, and from what they had told us, they are in compliance when it comes to the advertising of the tobacco products. So that was the one thing Lieutenant Gonzalez didn't want me to relay to you guys. And other than that, just we're just waiting for the openings of the schools for now.
Okay, wonderful. Questions for her from anyone? Rick?
I know in a typical year, the first week of school, we have officers out at most of our school sites, especially drop-off and things like that. Is that a plan for LVPD to do for our sites?
So we are having extra officers for traffic control during the first week of school as they're opening up, just to make sure, especially because it's been a year since we've had drop-offs and kids coming to school. So we have definitely extra patrol on all, especially because all schools are going to be starting at 8 o'clock now. It's not going to be, where the high school starts at a later time, middle school starts at, it's all going to be 8 o'clock. So we definitely have extra patrol during the morning hours. We have our crossing guards getting ready to get themselves set up. So hopefully everything's going to be just back to business.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are the schools going to extend into a later time for the school year, or is it going to close normal?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, we're finishing on our scheduled date. We're not lengthening the school year this year. We're going to have significantly expanded summer programs, but that'll be separate from the school year.
Okay. Any other questions for Janessa? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much for your report.
Yeah,
And I
no-
wish you well.
Thank you. I'm excited. So I finally see kids.
Oh, good. Well, I think they'll be very happy to have you there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item number 4, youth mental health. Who is going to be speaking on this?
Chair, we have Michelle Robinson with Tri-City Mental Health, and I see Camille. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's good to see everyone. I'm glad that we get to crash your meeting. It's been a long time since I joined. I know historically it was David who would show up to the meetings and update you guys on what was going on with the kids at the elementary and the counseling services. If you guys don't know, David actually moved on last fall. And so I stepped in, and Michelle actually has taken over David's duties. And so I wanted to come back and introduce Michelle so you guys know that services and continuity of care is still the same. We've pivoted obviously to the telehealth platform, but the services continue. We've been seeing kids since late October. And so the counseling services are in place. And if you have any other questions, you know, Michelle can definitely fill you in on the particulars.
Okay. Any questions?
I'm all ready. I have all my statistics, everything.
Well, Michelle, do you want to take a few minutes and speak to us?
Sure. So I'll just give you a little rundown of what's going on our end. And just to introduce myself also, I've been with Tri-City for 9 years. I'm actually the Family Wellbeing Program Coordinator. So I oversee all the family services at the Wellness Center. So that would be, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of our summer camp. That's our biggest event in the summer for kids ages 7 to 12, but I oversee all of those programs. And as Gamil said, I stepped in a couple of years ago to start assisting David. And now that he's not here, I've kind of stepped into his role. And also, I was actually an intern with Tri-City. So I've actually been doing the work that our interns are doing currently at the schools with the students. So been able to help in that aspect as well. So to date, we've actually had 30 referrals received from 8 schools. That is Bonita High, Chaparral, and 6 elementary schools. And as of right now, we still have 19 students that are open cases with us. And some of the reasons for referral, we've seen anxiety due to COVID issues. We've seen lack of concentration, obviously during online learning, which can be difficult for some kids. We've seen anger outbursts, defiance due to online learning, or family issues at home also. So parents, we've seen a lot of parents having trouble getting their kids to log on at a certain time to complete the assignments. We've also seen a need for building confidence and social skills, which is something that has been new this year. Because of the kids being online, I think that they're having a new challenge of feeling confident behind the computer as well as they might be in person. So also new this year, we've been assisting our schools with outreaching to various families. So before in the past, we would have the schools take care of everything in terms of outreaching, filling out referrals, but now we're assisting with that just to aid the schools in communicating with families. And that's been successful. We've actually had a 70% success rate with that. So we're looking forward to continuing that even when we're back in person. And of course, we've been able to connect more with the families. So not just our students, but the siblings, everybody in the household, we've been able to provide support for all of them as well, more than in the past, just because we're dealing directly with the parents as opposed to dealing with the students at the schools. So that's been a plus this year. And some highlights is that we've connected 4 students to our children and family outpatient services. So that's been successful for us. We've had some closures due to kids moving away, starting homeschool, things like that. But our biggest highlight, I think, is connecting those kids to services, and they are still currently enrolled in services. So that's also good to know. Well, that's all I have on my end. Do you guys have any questions about any services or any referrals or anything like that?
I would just be curious or want to hear a little bit more of the interaction, how you actually meet with the parents. Is it virtual? Is it a mix of virtual and in person? Kind of talk a little bit about how that process takes place.
Yes, so currently we do use a platform similar to Zoom. It is Ring Central. So what we do is we're able to connect with the parents via email, via phone, whatever works best for them, to set up a time that would be appropriate for their students to be able to meet with our interns. And actually it's worked out well because our interns are actually here providing services on Wednesdays. And Wednesdays are your guys' early days. So it works out well where the kids are able to get on anytime between 10:30 and 1:30 and have 20-minute sessions, which is typical. Our 20-minute sessions have been going on in person also when they were in person. But so far, everything has been via telehealth. So it's all been virtual.
Other questions? If you want to speak, raise your hand so we can see who'd like to speak. Carolyn. You're muted right now, Carolyn.
Oops, sorry. I want to give kudos to Michelle. She's done a great job and been a wonderful liaison and communicates weekly or more as needed to keep us all in the loop on what's happening. And we've had a really good experience with Michelle in her role this year. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks. Thanks for your support as well. It's been very helpful.
I'm glad. My pleasure.
Yes, just being able to touch that many students, it's impressive. In the family situation, you know, they probably feel very comfortable with you and they see you over and over again. And that's a comfort to so many people. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on.
Wait, Robin, if you don't mind, there's somebody on this Zoom that I would love to hear from, and that's Corey Leeper. Corey's had extensive training in the mental health of our residents, mostly our homeless, but I think that probably goes into our youth in some cases. And I would love to hear Corey's thoughts about kind of what we're doing on mental health and see if he has any suggestions about how we can improve.
Okay, Corey.
Wow, that's some big shoes to fill there. You know, we've had a great relationship with Tri-City for so many years, and partnering with them with some of the homeless stuff, it crosses over some of the stuff with our youth as well. So with Janessa coming into the school, she brings a component of that. But we're also lucky that we have Frankie Kimbero, who was the prior SRO, and he's also coming to the Detective Bureau. So I'm going to have Frankie mentoring Janessa, which is new for us. In the past, the SRO was brought right into the school and kind of thrown out there, but we created this mentorship program. So one of the things I've tasked Janessa with is using the telehealth philosophy, is doing some more of the home visits on the phone so we can keep the officer on campus more time. And I think being more visible on the campus and having more personal connection with our students is going to help to create that trust so we can tackle some more of the mental health issues. And in light of this recent, the shooting in Colorado, I just think it's so important to have our officer on campus and available, not just for the safety component, but to really connect with our students and to seek ways to help them reacclimate themselves back into the school. We know it's a challenge, but with our partnerships with Tri-City, we've used the same philosophy with the homeless and had great success, and I don't see why it wouldn't work in our schools.
Corey, is our SRO has typically spent time at mostly at the middle school and at the high school. Is that going to continue, or is it mostly high school?
Well, we go based on need. So, you know, although she's housed at the high school for office purposes, she's available to all the schools in the city. So in her absence, when she was in patrol, the Detective Bureau filled that need. And so even though it wasn't as visible, we were conducting a lot of investigations and working direct with the parents. It's some of the things that you don't see there as visible because some of our investigations are sensitive due to the nature of the investigation. But Janessa will be available to all the schools all the time, whether it's Oak Mesa or the high school. One of the things that's important to me is that she's spending time on the campuses, and I really want her to spend her time from the very young kids up to the high school kids. We can always make it adaptions. One thing I wanted to touch on going back, there was a question about the first week traffic plan. I wanted to add that one of the things that we do during that week is that we take our detectives and we put them in uniform, and we added, 6 additional officers onto the street. And it's going to be a bigger challenge this year because we all start school at the same time for this first week. In the prior years, we've had offsetting times, which allowed us to move the officers around from school to school during those first couple of weeks. But our goal is not to enforce necessarily. It's a reminder to the kids that they're safe, that we're there for them, and also a reminder to the parents that slow down a little bit. So it's twofold. It's not just simply a traffic enforcement effort, but it's a reminder that you work or you go to school in a really safe city. We're here for you. You can trust us, and we'll be here when you need us.
Wonderful, Corey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I would just also like to share regarding, we realize that Janessa is housed at the high school, but just to give you a few examples during COVID when, even when Janessa was on patrol, whether it was her day off or whether she was out ill, if I were to contact her with a question or need a follow-up, she responds to me every time in a timely manner. So Janessa, I've really appreciated your support, even though you were on patrol.
Oh, thank you. I just want you guys to always know, like, even though if I'm not at the school, I will do my best to, whether it's a day off or anything, I will answer you to make sure that your question was heard. And then if I'm not there, I'll make sure someone, whether it be the Detective Bureau, patrol, will get you some help. That's I never want you guys to feel like you're ignored or anything, no matter what. Like, I'm a cop 24/7, so.
And Kim, thanks for adding that, if I might. Just so you guys know, so Janessa works for me in detectives. So one of the advantages I have now as the detective sergeant is that Janessa may be tasked with something in a school and an investigation comes up or a need comes up. I'm able to move my detectives around to fill those needs. So a lot of her investigations that she does, because they're very sensitive, require two people. So she'll work alongside a detective, and I'm sending her to schools that are the same that the detectives would get. So she's going to get a vast amount of training and experience that our normal patrol officers don't get. But I think the investment into her is so important because it's an investment in our youth. And so I do want you guys to know she communicates constantly with me about our needs, and we talk back and forth, and then I connect her with detectives. And so we will fill those needs. If she's busy at Ramona or if she's at Oak Mesa and Bonita has a need, we will always fill that need immediately. And so I want you guys to know and be reassured that we're there, 24/7 for you guys.
We are so lucky to have you here in Laverne. Wow. Wonderful. Thank you. Questions for you, anybody here? Corey or Janessa? Anybody? Okay.
I would just like to add that our services are in addition to some formal treatment services that Mark and Debbie normally connect on. So, we have a couple of parallel tracks as far as services for the kids at the school. So formal treatment, you guys heard Michelle talking about connecting 4 kids to services. So those would be kind of like the clients that Mark and the school counselors were referred directly into Debbie Johnson's children's outpatient program with the school partnership teams. So that's in addition to our counseling intervention that the interns do on the platforms. So I wanted to make sure that, you guys are aware that we have plenty of support with the kids, especially as they return, the consistency, stability, it's important for them to know, like the officers were pointing out, it's like that they're safe, that, everything is going to be okay, that the world is safe. And so creating that sense of safety is important. And if they need to express, some anxious thoughts or feelings, then we have a couple of tracks that we can distinguish from. If they need formal intervention, then they would go towards Debbie. And if it's just a behavioral kind of issue that they need to work through at the school, then they will come our way with Michelle. But if we see that, it started as a behavioral issue, but we see that there's more of a deeper need, then we actually connect the parents and the families to the outpatient services as well. So those were the 4 that Michelle was referencing as being connected to services.
Wonderful. And I see Mark shaking his head, so it's a great segue into his report for Bonita Unified.
Yeah, so as was mentioned earlier, we are getting ready to reopen schools right after spring break, elementary schools that first week, and then secondary schools the week after. So obviously a lot of planning has gone into that. We're in the final stages. And we're going to be running what's called a synchronous hybrid. So in terms of the operation of the classroom, the teacher will be delivering instruction to a group of students who are physically present with the teacher at the same time that students are watching from home over Zoom. So, and that's actually a model we talked about last summer. You guys might remember in September, we thought that we might be able to do this, right? We were sort of briefly in that point where community spread was low enough that we thought we might be able to do this early, and then that went away and never came back until now. So it will be a new way of teaching for our teachers, right? They've never run this model before in their classroom, but it is extremely flexible in terms of being responsive to individual students. If a student is sick and can't come to school, they might still be able to jump on Zoom and participate. If things change in community spread and we have to get more strict, we can do that. If it gets less strict, we can do that. So it's a very agile, flexible instructional model. And the day will look very similar to what students have been doing all year long. When they start, when they end, what the morning looks like, what the afternoon looks like, will run on roughly the same schedule. The students will have their same teachers. So the main difference for kids is that a couple days a week, they'll be getting instruction from the classroom, where up till now it's been, every day on Zoom. And then of course, we'll have a portion of our community who are choosing to remain fully virtual. That's an option to any family. And we've been surveying families and basically collecting their decision, and families can change their mind down the road as well. Because like I said, the system is very flexible to have students arrive and leave. And then as things change, and that's been something that's characterized our planning process all year, is that during the amount of time we're planning, significant change occurs in what's going on, right? So you're aware when we began this, Los Angeles was in the purple tier, and maybe we were going to be able to reopen elementary schools. And then, okay, now we can do elementary schools. And now LA County's in the red tier, which means all schools can reopen, but with still quite a few restrictions. And the way the numbers are going, Los Angeles County could be in the orange tier by early to mid-April, which means the protocols change again. And then, CDC just published new guidelines, which then trickle down to the state and county. And then, they changed the 6-foot rule to a 3-foot rule for students, not for us adults. We still have to stay 6 feet away from each other, but the little guys can be a bit closer. So each time something like that changes, we, sort of consider it and look at our planning and incorporate it and say, what can we do? And that'll be another advantage of the model we're running, is that it will not require us to revamp the entire program in order to respond to some of these changes. And so in that sense, it remains, I think we have solid plans in place, and yet it's such an unpredictable world as things change. And all of these things, these are very, very positive changes. When you think of the numbers we were facing here in LA County in January compared to what we're seeing now, it's nothing but good news in terms of COVID spread. But obviously it can be stressful for planning for teachers, that it's hard to know what to expect. But the teams that have worked on this have done an incredible job in the midst of a very stressful year, and a very strong commitment among our staff to find ways to get kids back on campus. That is definitely a commitment, because there are districts who are not returning students to campus this year, or who are waiting longer or only bringing them back for, an hour a day or something like that. So I think that's, I've seen the team work really hard to do what we can to get kids ready to be back on campus as quickly as possible. And then, as I mentioned, we're already planning, we're going to have much larger summer programs. We'll be running elementary and middle school programs for the first time in about 10 years, as well as the high school programs that will be a bit larger than usual. So you'll see lots of support and remediation programs for kids this summer. And many of that support, a lot of that support structure will be continued into next year as well. We're sort of thinking of it in terms of a 2-year learning loss mitigation plan that really kind of starts this summer, goes through all of next year, and then probably into next summer to work with as many students as possible to fill whatever gaps might have been created this year by students who just have not done well in the distance learning environment. And lots of stuff is now available online. There is a ton of documentation that goes with this. We have a reopening guide for elementary schools and middle schools, as well as the formal plans that each of our schools have to write that have to be approved by the state or by the county, are almost completely done. A few things for secondary schools, and as those get done, they get published on our public website. So it's a very transparent process in terms of what our plans look like and what the protocols are and how everything is, planning to work when students come back on campus.
Wonderful. Questions?
I've got one. Mark, I'd just be curious, there's districts throughout the country that have opened up already. Have there been any lessons learned that you guys are kind of looking at and preparing for?
Well, I think the one that I keep reading about is, and this is what we're really emphasizing, is really following the mitigation protocols, which are fairly straightforward. It's distancing, right? It's wearing a face covering, and it's, for the younger kids especially, maintaining what they call stable groups or reducing the amount of mixing that occurs between students. And from the stuff I've read, and this goes way back to early in the pandemic, when that happens, there is success. And we actually see it locally, right? We've been running daycare programs since August, and those are 12 to 15 students plus 1 or 2 adults together in a classroom all day long. And we've had no outbreaks out of that program, right? But what you'll see is extremely high compliance with the mitigation protocols, and it works. And so what we're doing now is translating that into the classroom environment. Is going to look very similar to that. In the 50-50 hybrid, you have right around a dozen to maybe 15 students with a teacher. And I think if they can be true to the protocols, then this works. And I think community spread is down to a level now. Doing this when community spread was a 15% positivity rate would have been extremely challenging, right? LA County is now under 2%. So it's just far less prevalent in the community. You add mitigation protocols to that. And those are the schools that have made this work. And like I said, we've seen it in our own daycare programs. We've seen it work on a smaller scale, but in a similar environment to what we are looking at putting in place for classrooms. So we're feeling confident, and we're doing tons of training. Obviously, that's part of how I'm spending my week this week, is training really every employee in the district on the fundamental protocols to make sure everyone's on the same page. Because we have a lot of this stuff we need to train our students to do, so we need to be dedicated to doing it as well.
And then you talked about the childcare, the daycare program. So now it's going to transition to an after-school program, basically, right? So you basically that program was already really popular, and so there's not a lot of room to add in kids now.
Yeah, it actually is going to still run all day long. So a student who's doing completely virtual can still be in daycare, and they're actually expanding back to their typical hours of like 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they'll actually serve both like virtual only students and students who go to school part of the time, but you're right in the sense that it's very limited by facility space is what it boils down to. So there will not be much room to add additional families. And a lot of the focus is on making sure that our employees who need childcare are, can get it through us, often on the campus where they work or nearby. So those programs will actually expand a bit, but not much, just because we don't have space for them to grow very much.
Any other questions? Denise?
Are the kids going to be going back to school 5 days a week?
Not at first. It's half the students at a time. So, and then Wednesdays will still remain kind of a shortened day. So students under this first phase, which we call a 50-50 hybrid, they'll be on campus 2 days a week. Okay. So, and based on, part of that is driven by the distancing protocols, which of course just changed. Part of that is just sort of making sure we can, do the protocols. We haven't even really started talking about the 3-foot rule because that literally was published yesterday. So, we've had 24 hours to contemplate that change. So we're still focused on what we've planned for now. So kids will be on campus 2 days a week under this model. That could change down the road, but that's where we'll start.
And one other question, did you have any pushback from teachers and or parents who either wanted you to do more or didn't want you to even go this far, or has everybody been on board?
I mean, there's a range of positions on this, among parents and staff, from, on both of those ends of the spectrum of people who feel like we could bring kids back every day and others who feel like it's not safe to do this at all. That's part of why every family has a choice. No one's being forced to send students physically back to school right now. I think we've had, like among the teaching ranks and among our classified staff, we have an excellent relationship with our unions in working through these. We basically created specialized MOUs for this environment, you know what I mean? So everybody kind of knew what the ground rules were and what the parameters were. So I think we have excellent support from our staff on the whole. And of course that varies by individual, but on the whole. And then of course, a big part of this for us and a lot of others was making vaccines readily available so that by mid-April, the vast majority of our staff who want a vaccine will have a chance to get one. You probably aware, vaccines became available to educators in Los Angeles County on March 1st. We were all ready to go with a community vaccine partner. They're called Mercy Pharmacy. We ran 2 vaccine clinics, one on March 3rd and one on March 10th. And by March 10th, every employee of the district who wanted a vaccine had their first shot. So we got that done in 10 days. And we are right now running our second dose clinics. The first one is tomorrow. For that first group will get their second dose, and then another one probably sometime next week. And so by mid-April, not only will people have started the process, but the vast majority of our staff, if they have a vaccine, it will have reached full efficacy by the time they start working with kids, or very close to the time they start working with kids. So that element was extremely important, I think, in building confidence around doing this safely for our adults. Because obviously we need to keep things safe for kids, but we also need to keep things safe for staff. And this disease is more dangerous to adults on the whole. So we really had to address that. So the vaccine distribution process went extremely well, still going, but went extremely well and happened really more quickly than I would have thought. I would not have predicted we could have gotten that done in a couple of weeks. But we have an excellent partner, and then people were just able to get out into the county systems and find appointments out in the county. Only about 40% of our staff needed one of the clinics that we ran to get a vaccine. The rest basically found it, somewhere near where they live or something like that.
Great. Okay. I'd like to hear from Krista, being our board member here and as school board member. I bet you've had lots of meetings and reading of materials to keep you busy. Do you want to say anything?
Well, Mark did such a great job of presenting all the important information, but I do want to say that we did get football and cheer on the field, which is very exciting. We had our first games, so everybody was really happy to be out there. And we're excited to have the kids back on campus, both for the kids and also for the teachers, because I have heard how much the teachers really need that contact with the students. So I think it's important for everyone involved to, be on campus and safely and have a good time and be around each other and finish the school year off strong. So I'm excited to have everybody on campus.
Mhm. Yes, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other questions. Then let's move on to the Teen Center update. JR?
Yeah, thank you. Taking the place of Bill Aguirre that retired before he could come back to another YFAC meeting. So not quite the foremost expert like he was on this topic, but just wanted to provide an update on the status of the Teen Center. Basically, there have been some concerns raised about the site at Las Flores Park. The original concerns were that there was, basically there's quite a large redwood grove that's in the corner of that park, and that some of those redwoods would have to be removed for the original location of the teen center. The design and the site location has actually been adjusted. So now all the redwood trees in the grove are going to remain shy of two. Two trees will still have to be taken out. But there's still, even with that modified design, addressing those concerns that were raised in public meetings, there's still an effort of opposition to the teen center being located in Las Flores Park. The city had actually applied for a grant, not to build the entire teen center, but to significantly help fund the construction of that. And there's a group that actually submitted basically an opposition to that with the state directly. So the teen center, I see Donna down there, who was on council way back when we had strategic plans as part of this too. And it was something that the council then put forth, and here we are today still trying to move it forward. But that's where we are right now. The city still has been actively pursuing grant funding to help with it. And the location at Las Flores Park was picked as kind of as the best location option wise out of a lot of different areas of thought. So again, just providing that update. It doesn't mean that it's not going forward. It doesn't mean that it's going forward even at this point. We're still trying to secure the funding, and still trying to make sure that we're addressing the concerns with it going in that park.
Rick Crosby.
I would like to see, hearing that from JR, I'd like to see this group to send our approval for the teen center, and maybe send a letter from this committee to the grants to say how important it is for the teen center to be in our community for our students, especially our 6th through 9th and 10th graders, that they need a place to be, and we need programs that we could bring to them as well, like our Tri-City members can be part of that, and so we can really help out families. So I don't know how the rest of this group feels, but I would like to see how this group approves of the plan, and to send that on up of how we feel.
Don Kendrick had your hand up.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Rick, for that suggestion, which I think is absolutely imperative. One of we looked at a number of sites before we selected this site. And there's some real reasons. One is, and the redwood grove is going to go away. Redwood trees should never have been planted in that spot because they don't survive. It's not, we're not in the environment for redwood trees to be successful. If they'd have put different trees there, we wouldn't be having this discussion, but there is no. So one of the things that we were going to do with those redwood trees was harvest them and then use them within the design and the decor of the teen center, with recognition of why those were planted and who those were planted for. The second reason, another reason we picked that site is because it's city property. The city cannot afford to build a teen center on a commercial site. We just don't have the funds to do that. And another reason is when we visited the Glendora Teen Center, there were like 3 or 4 cars in front. There just isn't transportation other than busing from Ramona and walking from Bonita. So the transportation around the neighborhood is going to be minimal. And so all the stars kind of lined up for this. So it's a great project. I'm sorry that it wasn't approved by everybody, but it is a great program. It's a great project. I think it needs to come to fruition. And I would love to see this committee send that endorsement letter that Rick talked about.
And along with that also, Dawn, is we have made some adjustments. We are going to keep the redwoods. We're going to move the teen center closer. The new proposal is to move it more, out front of where the redwoods are. There's only a couple trees that are going to have to go because of, they're dying. But we're going to keep the redwoods. We listen to people. They love the redwoods, so we can make that adjustment. And everything else is exactly what you said. As we hear from Bonita Unified, as we hear from Tri-City, the need is there. Even with our resource officer and Corey, the need is there. We're going to have a location inside the teen center with offices for Tri-City to have the kids feel comfortable coming to talk to someone. It's a very safe environment. We saw the need. And I just want to express so often that we got to forget that as our kids grow up and move out, we still have to be focused on these kids now. It's easy to say, well, not in my backyard, or not, oh, I don't care because my kids are growing. We care. Everybody should care about our students. They're our future. And right now, these children have lost so much, especially over the last year. So any other comments from others? Donna, you're muted. Do you want to take yourself off?
Yeah.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, I'm happy to be back. I know it's been a while, but it's good to see everybody. I know JR mentioned that I was a real proponent for this project back in the day when I was on city council. And back then, my daughter was in high school, and I really saw firsthand the need for something like this for our students and our kids. And I completely agree with Rick and Dawn and everybody that this is something that needs to move forward. And if this committee can be a voice and send a message to the council that this is important and that it does continue to move forward, despite the fact that there is opposition. I'm guessing it's probably residents that live in the area that don't want, more traffic or that type of thing. But the pros outweigh the cons in this regard, and I think it's really important that we do continue to move forward. This was one of my platforms when I ran for city council. I always wanted something for the students. So even though I'm not on the council anymore, I really would love to see something like this move forward. So that's my piece.
Thank you, Donna. And yes, you're a resident here. That's what we all are, right? And your input's very valuable. And I saw, who else's hand up? Carolyn.
Yeah, I'm just curious. So I know there's an article in the paper this morning about it, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But is the concern by the residents who were concerned about the trees and the open space, as long as that's mitigated by the movement and the not taking the trees down, is there still opposition given that you've made some adjustments?
JR, you want to answer that?
Yes, there's some general issues like Donna mentioned with just traffic and then extra people in the park, right, that aren't normally there today.
Okay.
That's a general concern. And then just taking up green space, right? That's another general concern that's been raised.
Okay, so is the new proposed site, take those into consideration just in terms of the green space to try and, minimize the impact on losing green space?
Yeah, so the movement saved a majority of the redwood grove. By doing that, it does take up some of that additional green space that's open today.
Okay. It'd be interesting to see the new proposal, a plot design, or, you know what I mean, to see it visually.
Yeah, we can arrange that for sure. I'll work with Chad to pull that together. But really, my understanding of it is generally just kind of split it, over a little bit and minimize the parking lot area, because the original design had, if you remember, this pretty significant drive approach and kind of a back parking lot area, and so that's been modified as well.
Okay, because we can partially use some of the parking that's already there. Is that some of the thinking now?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'd love to hear more. And
Anybody else want to say anything? Otherwise, I'd like to bring it back to the board. Now, the board members, you heard Rick's proposal, a letter coming from this committee. Do I hear this in a motion?
I move that the committee of the Youth and Action Family Committee sends an approval of the Teen Center letter to the, okay, I try to wordsmith this, to the grant and to the Laverne City Council.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Denise seconded it. All the board members? Well, you will take a roll call from JR.
Please, Chair Carter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Crosby,
Yes.
Member Checkmack, Member Cockrell.
I'd like to see the blending of what is being proposed, so that all voices are heard and, as is happening, it sounds like, right? So I'd like some language or something so that it's that move to try and mitigate the concerns is a part of it. I'm not sure how to, it seems like it's in progress to kind of mitigate the concerns. So if that's happening, then yes, I am in support of that, because yes, we do need one, but at the same time, I think it's important to take into consideration.
And the one thing I'll just add to that, from a staff level, and again, not a big part of this project at this point, but know enough to make me dangerous, right? The site location is part of at least the current grant application that's already there. I mean, that's submitted, that's where the city's saying it's going to go. And all the previous public meeting efforts that took place selected this as the best location. This adjustment, somewhat minor in the big scheme of how significant the project is, that's basically the biggest adjustment that can be made. Any further adjustments would be, it would need to not be in Las Flores Park, basically, for it to work with the size and the functionality of the building.
So our letter would be to also in support of the adjustments that have been made, but just to go forward with creating a teen center. In which case I'm on board with that.
Okay. Okay. So do you have everyone's vote, JR?
Member
Yes,
Fisher,
yes.
Okay. We will get that letter off. JR, if you need help with that, Rick and I'll help you with that.
okay, perfect. And I may just bring it back to the executive board members to have signatures from all 5.
That'd be great. I think that would be impactful. Okay, wonderful. At this time, we'll do public comment. Do we have anybody that would like to speak, JR?
We do, and I'm not sure. I think Rick was in charge of doing the hold music while I called the person. So if you could please just give me a minute to get the person online, and then I'll jump right back on. So please hold.
Okay, Rick, come on.
Well, this is all new to me there. As we are actually on hold, I just want to thank both the Tri-City, our Laverne PD, and Bonita Unified. Because of what you guys are doing, getting kids back in class and making sure that their mental health is being secured. Really do appreciate that from a city point of view, and what the work you guys have done so far. It's been outstanding. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, we always love doing our part. You know, we're all for the well-being of the kids, and so it was a change for sure to pivot to a telehealth platform, and we weren't sure if we were going to get all the kinks worked out. But you know, it's been it's come along, and Michelle's done a great job in connecting with, like she said, with the parents, because normally we would connect with the kids on site at the school, and every so often we will get a phone call to the parents. But now it's like, well, no, we have to call the parents so they can get the kids on the laptop or on the phone. So it's been it's actually been very fruitful in getting the dynamics at home, because you see it a little more often than whenever we would check in randomly with the parents.
Great. Okay, let's move on to public comment.
Yes, Chair Carter, I have Peter on the line. Peter, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Can you guys hear Peter okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Peter.
Hey, good evening, Councilwoman Carter and Councilwoman Cosby, and members of the Youth in Action Committee. As Jared said, my name is Peter. And first, I just want to say thank you very much for your time and your commitment to the youth and families in Laverne, and specifically to helping our teens find their place in life. I think that's very important as well. In the community, really appreciate the update on the teen center, and especially the efforts of the city council to save the majestic redwoods in Las Flores Park. But I'd just like to move on and say that, first of all, on top of that, we really support the teen center being established in Laverne. In fact, I'm very proud as a resident and taxpayer that how Bonita Unified School District has provided teen counseling, after-school daycare, and tutoring at each of the campuses in Laverne to support our teens. And during COVID, even sent home, PC help to I think almost all the students. So that's a great thing. However, the teen center proposal would really remove valuable park space and replace it with an 8,000 square foot building plus more parking asphalt. We are being told in different committee meetings that the building will bring teens inside to be tutored, to be at computers, have access to a lounge area and music room, along with mental health services, which are great. And also the indoor fun stuff, TV, video games, board games, and table games, and of course some snacks and a juice bar. But just as a reminder again, the park currently provides a tennis court, a competitive swimming pool for high school and college and youth, younger ages, aquatic center, the public restrooms, 2 ball fields, several soccer fields, a volleyball court, and soon an adaptive playground. With all this organized space in the park, it seems this area of Laverne needs more open space and green space for non-formal activities, not less. Las Flores Park is an often and beloved open green space used daily by all ages and all parts of Laverne, folks from all parts of Laverne, to simply wander, walk, jog, exercise, and stimulate their mind, especially during these COVID pandemic times. And it's shown about 700 petition signatures we have in favor of saving the green space in Lost Forest Park. It's not a NIMBY factor. I've heard that many times, but there's not 700 people that live next to Laverne Lost Forest Park. So these names are from all over Laverne. Somehow it just doesn't feel right that we should take away some of the last green space at the north end of the park with near the picnic tables to bring youth indoors. Saving Lost Forest Park was never just about saving the redwoods. And while it's a great step, I'm asking that we consider saving the green space in all the green space there at the north end of Lost Forest Park. So I guess just to get to the point, I'm asking the committee and the city planning committee to revisit alternative locations for the teen center, possibly an empty lot or repurposing a current building, or even at the south end of the Laverne Sports Park. And I would be willing to serve to assist with those ideas in that regard and do some research or whatever it takes. But thank you for listening.
Thank you, Peter. JR, is there anyone else?
If you just give me a minute, I'll check. And in case people are wondering why I'm at home and not in my office, our server went down today, so try to adjust.
Technology.
Had to do the meeting from home. We had one other email comment that was not asking to speak, but I'll make sure that that gets included with the minutes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back to this committee. Is there anything more anyone would like to say? I tried to catch everyone to give them a chance. Jessica, you haven't had a chance to speak.
Thanks, everyone. I don't really have much to say. I don't know. I think it's really wonderful the things that we're doing for the youth and just the commitment, like the continual commitment, even when your youth aren't like in, or your kids aren't youth anymore. So, but thanks.
Anyone else like to say anything more that we haven't touched on?
I would just like to give some recognition to both the teachers union and the school district. They overwhelmingly the concerns were about safety and logistics for the teachers. Not, they're also eager to bring the students back to campus safely. They didn't have questions about instruction or planning lessons or anything like that. It was, will we be safe and will we be supported? And the work, especially that Mark has done to ensure that questions are answered, the handbooks provided to elementary and secondary, the department meetings that he's holding this week to get some face time and address those concerns. And so now on our campus at Ramona, we have basically everything we need to ensure that the teachers feel safe bringing the students back and that they'll be able to keep themselves safe and their students safe. We have the dividers for desks that we're setting up now, shields for teachers, PPE equipments in the classroom or in the process of being distributed. So all those issues, all those potential barriers have been, the plates are cleared for the teachers to focus on serving the kids. And that's been really the trend all year. So from the very beginning of providing us with the technology we need, the teachers had a special budget to support their work. If they're working at home, they were given the option to work at home or on campus. I mean, I can just go on and on with the level of support that we've been provided. And then now, for example, just this past week, the technology department has come to every room on campus to make sure teachers are set up and have what they need. And buying equipment, making sure we have projectors, microphones for the teachers. They've really thought of everything. And so, and then special, health circumstances for teachers if they need additional support. So it's been an amazing thing down to bringing the vaccines to the district. That's like really unheard of in among the teaching friends that I have in other districts. And to be on the inside and see the free flow. And I'm getting emails from, I believe her name's Nicole, from the BUTA president, and I'm getting emails from colleagues and about which sites to go to and getting us all, the vaccine. If we wanted, there wasn't ever any even subtle pressure. It was always, if you feel comfortable, here's the support for you. So it's really great to be on the site and see, all hands on deck and know we're supported.
Great, thank you, Kimberly. All right. Not hearing anything more, we will adjourn the meeting and we'll see everyone April 27th at 6:30. Thank you very much for spending some time with us tonight. Bye-bye.